Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited. The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. A New York City police officer was shot and killed this weekend, and his partner was shot and wounded and is fighting for his life after a confrontation inside of a Harlem home where they were called to resolve a domestic violence incident. Now, in this incident, 22-year-old Officer Jason Rivera lost his life, and Officer Wilbert Mora, who was 27, was shot and wounded as they wound up in a confrontation with 47-year-old Shawn McNeil, who came out of a bedroom with a Glock 45 caliber handgun as the officers were trying to discuss the issues that the mother was having with her son. Now, the police are seeing this as a tragic cop killing, but when I take a critical examination of this tragic shooting of these two officers, it fits the pattern and profile for beta males that I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis. Now, you'll have a lot of politicians talking about how this is a gun issue because this Shawn McNeil is alleged to have had a Glock 45 caliber handgun that he stole that was capable of holding 40 rounds, but the gun control issue isn't the issue as related to males like Shawn McNeil, who had a long criminal record. No, the real problem with your Shawn McNeil was he was one of these beta males who was raised in a dysfunctional fashion by his mother. And because this boy was raised in a dysfunctional fashion by his mother, this is what made this boy a ticking time bomb who sadly wound up exploding in a rage where he wound up taking the life of one New York City police officer, and he wound up putting another officer's life in jeopardy to the point where he's in critical condition at a hospital. And it's the dysfunctional way that he was raised that led to this boy going out here and creating the incident where law enforcement had to be called. Now, this Shawn McNeil was at his mother's house, and they were having an argument over his vegan diet. And usually people who have vegan diets, they may be passionate, but they understand how to agree to disagree. Unfortunately, when it comes to a beta male, they do not have good conflict resolution skills, and because they want their opinion to be the only opinion, what happens is that these males go out here and they argue and go back and forth, and they escalate a simple disagreement into a heated argument. And when these beta males go out here and they escalate things into a heated argument, they don't know how to navigate through their emotions. They start getting more and more emotional, and as they get emotional, they start simmering and boiling in anger, and that anger is what makes these males really dangerous to deal with because they want their opinion to be the only opinion. They want to be the ones that are right, and they get this frame of thinking mostly from their single mothers who participate in this type of behavior and model this behavior in front of their sons. And as they're modeling this behavior in front of their sons, this is how they learn how to go out here and deal with people who disagree with them. And they go out here and they then participate in the same behavior themselves. Now, this is what your Shawn McNeil wound up doing before the police were called. As he was having that argument with his mother, things were getting really hot. And then he storms into the bedroom and he's sitting there in the bedroom. Now, this guy is all emotional as he's sitting in the bedroom, and he's not critically thinking about the situation because when you have a beta male, he's all about his feelings, And when he heard his mother talking to police officers, that's when the beta male, who was simmering and boiling in anger, reacted to the situation. Now, while the officers did not come there to arrest him, they said they wanted to resolve the conflict without an arrest. He was sitting there simmering and boiling in anger. And as he was simmering and boiling in anger, he then heard probably the radios of the police officers inside of the other room. And as he simmered and boiled in anger, he then started to lose it as he started to panic because this LaShawn McNeil allegedly had already had several arrests for including assaulting a Pennsylvania police officer, and he had several other arrests for drugs. So he knew that possibly if they looked at his background and his record, he would possibly be going back to jail or going to prison because this latest incident would be another one as related to him showing a pattern of violent and criminal behavior. And then he wound up panicking, exploding in a rage, and then bursting out of the bedroom that he was sitting there simmering and boiling in anger in, and then went out here, took out a gun that he allegedly stole from someone, and then used it to shoot at the two police officers before a third officer returned fire, stepping over one of the bodies of his partners in order to shoot and wound this McNeil. Now, again, this whole incident all started due to a beta male not being able to settle conflicts and not being able to go out here and be able to have discipline or self-control. And many politicians, they're coming out here talking about how this is an issue of illegal guns and talking about how we need more gun control. But the big problem here with your males like your LaShawn McNeils is the dysfunctional way that they are raised, and the dysfunctional way that they are raised does not teach them self-control, because had this young man had some self-control, two officers would be alive today. Unfortunately, because we focus on the deflection of gun control, we don't deal with the way these boys are raised, and that is why we have violent incidents like this, because we focus on the guns and not the way these boys are raised. And the main reason why your politicians don't want to focus on the way these boys are raised is because it points a finger at America's women, and pointing a finger at America's women and holding them accountable is something most politicians don't want to do, because holding these single mothers accountable for the way that they raise these boys would mean, one, alienating a large voting bloc, and two, alienating a large consumer bloc. And your corporate America and your politicians, especially leftist ones, don't want to alienate either of those groups as related to holding women accountable, as related to the way they are raising boys. But the reason why we have incidents like this is due to the way that these boys are raised in these single parent households, because the way these boys learn how to deal with conflict is modeled by a dysfunctional single mother. And because the mother models her conflicts resolutions by getting emotional, getting loud, getting melodramatic, this is what the boy sees as the way to deal with conflict. And when he sees this, he then goes out here and sees this at his model and then participates in the same behavior. And what makes these situations worse is that these single mothers will go out here and start drama with these types of beta males, like is alleged in this incident, over something trivial like a vegan diet. And what they will do is continue going back and forth with the son, escalating the matter, and knowing that this boy is emotional. And they will go out here and do this and create this type of toxic situation. Then they will want to go and call law enforcement and then try to have them deal with their son the same way that they've gone out here and start things with their boyfriends or their baby daddies, and they use that as a way to get the baby daddy punished for disagreeing with her. And this is what she did with her son the exact same way. And sadly, because they participate in this dysfunctional way of dealing with disagreements, this is what led to these two officers having their lives put in jeopardy and led to a officer losing his life. This is something a lot of females like to do in this age. They like to start arguments with a guy over nothing, get him emotional, get him angry, and then after they make him angry and then he loses it, they want to call the police and get the man arrested on a domestic violence charge. But sadly, in this case, it didn't go the way usually it does, where the guy gets arrested. This guy was one of these super ticking time bombs, and he wound up taking the life of one officer and putting the other in jeopardy before he wound up being wounded and put into critical condition. And this is something that happens again because we have men who have been raised in a dysfunctional fashion, and many people, they'll look at the guns, but they won't look at the way we are raising boys to become men. And they also won't look at the way some females go out here and start drama. And then after they start the drama, they go out here and create a situation where things get so out of control that people practically have their lives put in jeopardy. This is another, again, form of the crap test that some females love to play. And this time it wound up playing in a way where an officer lost his life and another is fighting for his life. And again, this is a situation that has gone on for many years because as we have created this man crisis in this country, we have created 2 to 3 generations of these beta male ticking time bombs, and we really need to start focusing on trying to deal with these ticking time bombs because we're seeing more and more of these guys going off and going off at a faster frequency than we have seen in the last 3 to 5 years. When I started doing these videos, it was only maybe a month or two between a tragic incident like a mass shooting or suicide or some other violent incident. But these days, I'm practically seeing these violent incidents practically transpire almost every day or every other day, or 2 to 3 incidents happening every day. And sadly, I predicted that this was going to get worse before it got better because America refuses to acknowledge the man crisis going on in this country, and they refuse to acknowledge the way we are raising boys to become men are leading into many young men going out here and becoming more and more violent and believing that the only solution to minor conflicts like a simple disagreement over a vegan diet is to go out here and take out a weapon and go out here and shoot at police. That is due to the way a boy is raised because that boy has not been taught critical thinking skills, the ability to use logic and reason, the ability to problem solve. No, that is because a boy has been taught how to feel like a woman, act on his impulses like a woman, and have absolutely no self-control because he has been raised to feel like a woman. And when you have a male who feels and has the physical strength of a man and the emotions of a woman, you have a dangerous and deadly combination. And that's what we have today due to the man crisis that's been going on over the last 50 years. And that's how we wind up with dangerous situations like this, where these 2 police officers wound up losing their lives. And many people, they're sitting there talking about gun control, but this is an issue of boys being raised to learn self-control, and that is something nobody is talking about because we in America refuse to acknowledge the man crisis going on in this country that is producing all of these extremely violent ticking time bombs. And instead of us trying to defuse these ticking time bombs, we just passively sit there and let them explode because we don't want to hold women accountable for the dysfunctional way they are raising boys to become all of these dangerous men like your LaShawn McNeil, who will soon be on his way back to the penitentiary where he will be traded for your ramen noodles, your Little Debbie snack cakes, and your cans of Dr. Pepper, all because he didn't have any sort of critical thinking skills and because he panicked and wound up going out here and wanted to go out in a blaze of glory. He wound up taking the lives of these officers, and now instead of him having the intangible of his freedom, he's probably going to be going to a upstate jail for the rest of his life. And that sadly is what happens when you have a beta male. He does not think about the big picture. He only feels in a situation, and because he's so caught up in his emotions, he panics in situations, and that is what makes these kind of males dangerous when females push buttons, because their behavior goes from a guy just walking away like a regular man to I'm going to go out here and destroy everything around me because they feel like they have nothing to lose. And again, people look at this situation and they go, oh, it's about the guns. No, it is about the way we are raising boys, and the way we are raising boys is creating 2 to 3 generations, going on 4 of dysfunctional men. And until we start acknowledging the way we are raising boys is creating dysfunctional men, we're going to see, sadly, more of these incidents until America acknowledges the man crisis that is destroying America from within. Now, if you want to learn more about how males like this wind up participating in the kinds of violence that they participate in and what leads to this kind of these boys becoming this dysfunctional to become this violent, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Man Crisis on Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. And if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and ebook, The Man Who Rules the World. John Haynes must bring together men and gods to overcome a threat that seeks to destroy the planet. The Man Who Rules the World. Now available in paperback and e-readers everywhere.